Thanks to all of our guests, of course. Do join us again for the next Frost Over the World, but until then, goodbye for now.
A history of guerrilla warfare, a place on the global stage. They were an organization created for a stateless population. But before fighting for their land, why did the PLO fight for independence from their Arab neighbors? Chronicling the turbulent story of the struggle for a Palestinian homeland, PLO, History of a Revolution, at this time on Al Jazeera.
It was a revolution which ended half a century of autocratic rule and inspired a wave of public protest that swept across the Arab world.
Internet, Facebook, Twitter, they were not the revolution.
In an exclusive two-part documentary, Raghi Omar traces the roots and repercussions of this uprising and examines why 23 years of dictatorship fell in only 28 days. The Death of Fear, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Homes have crumbled and many buildings have been left just empty shells.
Tensions are high. Riot police trying to control thousands of Greek protesters on the streets of Athens.
A British court has approved the go-ahead for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange to be extradited.
Gaddafi is waging a war against the Libyan people. They are killing civilians mercilessly. They're using ammunition, live ammunition.
From the ancient traditions of the written word to the power of photography and expressions of identity through dance, art is a constant feature of the human landscape. An underground theater group fights for democracy. Blind musicians make their mark in Bangladesh. Palestinian teenagers develop a photography project with kids from the other side of the wall. Across the world, art transcends physical barriers. Artscape, at this time on Al Jazeera.
This is Al Jazeera.
Hello and welcome to the News Hour, live from Doha. I'm Taimur Nabili, and from Al Jazeera's news centers here and in Washington, D.C., these are the day's top stories. Gaddafi's warplanes create a hellish scene in the skies over eastern Libya, but the rebels press on.
About 500 metres away as well, we can hear the rebels are firing mortars up into the air, where the Gaddafi bombers are still circling overhead.
And it's this crisis that dominated the discussions by the US president's advisors on Wednesday. I'm Jane Dutton in Washington. We'll bring you more on why Obama's administration is still debating a response to the unrest in Libya.
And an Al Jazeera exclusive from Myanmar, where children as young as 4 are working in the ruby mines. Well, the battles have been raging across Libya for another day. Dozens of people have been killed after Colonel Gaddafi's forces launched a fresh wave of airstrikes on rebel groups. There have also been fresh diplomatic moves by both sides. Now, Jackie Rowland was there in Ras Lanuf as the bombs begin to fall.
The attack comes from the sky. Pro-Gaddafi forces unleash a savage counter-offensive against the town of Ras Lanuf. Rebel fighters on the ground are sitting targets. They're vulnerable and they know it. Gaddafi's bombers have hit an oil storage depot about 10 kilometres to the west. Even from Ras Lanuf, the damage is tangible. We want to take a closer look, so we hitch a ride on the back of a pickup truck. We're not the only ones racing west. Rebel fighters are moving up to the front line. And on the roadside, a reminder of the grim tally of dead and injured. Medics prepare to take the wounded back to Ras Lanuf. The columns of smoke loom ominously on the horizon. We move closer.
Well, it does appear to be some kind of an oil installation. And as we approach it, we can see that the bombers have hit it in 3 different points. And this closest point here, we can actually see the flames. About 500 metres away as well, we can hear the rebels are firing mortars up into the air where the Gaddafi bombers are still circling overhead.
They drop another bomb inside the fence of the oil storage depot. Gaddafi's forces are clearly targeting this facility. The rebels fire multiple rocket launchers. Their target, not the warplanes, but rather a small group of pro-Gaddafi troops on the ground. Those troops are firing mortars from beneath the oil depot. They appear to be outflanked by the rebels. And all the time, the dense smoke rises, turning the afternoon into a premature night. We take shelter in a ditch in the desert. Unbeknown to us, the rebels have moved more rocket launchers to a sandbank behind us. The pro-Gaddafi troops have spotted them. They send their mortars thundering in.
Guys, we have to go.
We have to get out of here.
The mortar and rocket fire stops for a moment, our chance to escape. We have been 1 kilometre from the front line, and what we have seen has changed our perception of this rebel force. They've demonstrated more know-how than we had given them credit for, and their courage and determination are undeniable. Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera, outside Ras Lanuf in eastern Libya.
Well, that was the scene in Ras Lanuf, but Gaddafi's forces have also been shelling other areas of eastern Libya. In nearby Bin Jawad, rebels have been fighting to hold on to that town in the face of fierce attacks by Gaddafi's sanctioned warplanes. It's not clear who controls that area at the moment. AlJazeera is not far from the cities under fire either. It is under the control of the rebels for the time being. Tony Bertley has more.
If it was deliberate, the attack on the oil refinery depot in Ras Lanuf shows a worrying trend and escalation, and is bringing home the fears of many people here that Gaddafi will unleash his air force and destroy the oil and gas installations in the area. Fortunately, this was only an oil storage depot, but if it was the gas installation complex, which is not far away, then it would be far worse scenario. Thousands of people would be killed when toxic gases would be released into the air. So it's a very, very worrying time for people here. But it's showing also that the front lines here are very fluid. We understand from the government sources that they're claiming they've taken the Bin Jawad area back. The opposition forces say they still have it. It's very confusing to get an accurate handle on what is going on. But there is confusion, but there is also ultimate determination from the opposition forces. They're still massing no matter what. They are intent on going down that road and progressing as far as possible. And even if that means their death, they're